may interest from me play no can go pa. Mr. One the Prime Minister from me play give me good law wisdom, knowledge and understanding. All these NEC members from him, law leading country. Opposition leader too, Mr. One the mem, now line opposition, to ensure that government run alright. Papa may presence please Mr. One the me play as me play attending business for today. And you more like it talking Lord's Prayer. Our Father,
we are in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come,
thy will be done.
Give us this day our
daily bread, as we forgive those who trespass against us.
as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead
Deliver
us
us
not
from
into temptation, and deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and glory, forever and ever. Amen. Honorable members, before I go on to the order of the day, I'd like to inform the House, the both sides of the House, the government and the opposition, in accordance to Section 36, 2 and 3, it states very clear that the Parliament, we are to go strictly by the time of attending Parliament session. Therefore, I, on behalf of the Speaker, would like to make this statement to the Honorable House and the Honorable members that as of tomorrow, we will start strictly go by the standing order so that we show punctuality in attendance of quorum in session. So I'm putting this in notice that the bell will be ring, the first bell will be ring, and it will be suspended when there is no quorum to a certain time. And then if there is no quorum on the time the bell and the Speaker announce on the suspension, the Parliament will be adjourned to the next sitting day of Parliament. Therefore, I like to urge all members of Parliament that we respect the standing order of Parliament and attend Parliament on time, so that we run the business of our people in this Honorable House. Speaker, any petitions? Notices? Clerk?
For International Trade and Investment gives notice that it shall present a bill for an act to amend the Special Economic Zones Authority Act 2019.
Honorable members, question without notice. The Honorable Member for Kokopo.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker, for recognizing the people of Kokopo, which is the fourth city in Papua New Guinea. Thank you. My question is directed to the ICT Minister, but before me ask him a question, Acting Speaker, I'd like to thank you long Maraperoso government through the Minister for choosing Kokopo for the very important dialogue meeting with the Pacific countries. And I believe that is the first time that yes, all the Pacific countries have come together to make that very important meeting that yes, was happening in Kokopo a couple of weeks ago, months ago. Thank you. Question without notice, Blomi Yolsem. As we face issues through front page of the media, post-Gure, through national and some other so-called social media, and again, for us leaders and also the public, which again we've been tarnished and clarified that yes, some of us are this type of people, but yes, this is happening and tarnishing our good government, and it's not only the government, but both sides, the opposition and the government. My questions as follows, 4 questions. We all understand that yes, the Ministry and the Department Information, Communication and Technology is currently conducting a review of the media on ICT policy. Acting Speaker to Minister, At the same time, there's concern being raised by members of public, and the government is attempting to suppress media freedom and again freedom of speech using the new policy. And I believe, yes, this government is addressing this issue to protect the people of this country, and especially, not as leaders only, but through the people of our beautiful country. First question, can the minister clarify, and in simple terms, the intent and purpose of the current review of the media policy, what the new policy seeks to achieve? The second question, Acting Speaker, specifically, can the minister explain how the new policy will help protect and promote media freedom, enhance freedom of speech, a right guaranteed under our Constitution? Third question, Acting Speaker, can the minister also clarify whether the new policy seeks to regulate social media space, Facebook, WhatsApp, etc., etc.? And fourth question, last question, can the minister inform this House and the people of Papua New Guinea of the current status of the review and when the new ICT policy is likely to be approved by our government? Thank you, Acting Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Communication.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Good morning, lo you. Good morning, long all the people of Papua New Guinea. Or the Putimiao, now the Harim, na tu or the Lukimimi long television. Mi amo mas through long all questions and Honourable Member Blok Kokopoi ask him. Na me got back him blow this blow ask him and me give him. Me amo mas long book him this blow back him. So our people and the public can understand where we are in terms of this review that my department is spearheading. Firstly, the intent of the your number one question, Honourable Member, the intent of the draft National Media Development Policy is to establish an enabling framework to recognize and develop the media sector in Papua New Guinea to support our development agenda. Current research and recent consultations have led us to the consolidation of four main issues within the media sector. Firstly, is the concerns on quality of journalism that we have today. By concerns, we observe the decline of quality investigative journalism, the impact of substandard reporting on the development agenda, and the concerns of conduct, ethics, and accountability of journalists. Second is the protection of journalists. My ministry, through the Department of ICT, is currently collating both quantitative and qualitative data to verify the concerns of safety of journalists. We recognize that at the moment there is lack of protection mechanisms for journalists. Thirdly, on the intent is the coordination of government information. My ministry has for the last 3 years looked at options on how to reorganize state-owned media outlets so that we coordinate dissemination of government information better. We recognize that as a government, we are lacking coordination in government information dissemination to our people. And fourthly, the intent is the exclusion of SMEs. The ministry has identified that SMEs, particularly in the modern media space, are not recognized as professionals and not given appropriate support. So, based on these issues, the draft National Media Development Policy identifies 4 main objectives. Key objectives are highlighted as follows. First, facilitating and coordinating access to information for citizens and ensuring the media provides accurate, impartial, and balanced reporting on issues of public interest, including those affecting marginalized or underrepresented groups. Encouraging media diversity and supporting the representation of local and regional voices in media content and ownership. Ensuring media organizations adhere to ethical and professional standards and promoting responsible journalism that respects local customs and cultures, and promoting civic engagement and participation in media issues, including through partnerships between media organizations, civil society groups, and government agencies. So by promoting access to information, media diversity, and responsible journalism, the policy aims to support the development of a more informed, engaged, and empowered citizenry of Papua New Guinea. That is the first question you asked. The second question, how will the new policy help protect and promote media freedom and enhance freedom of speech? Mr. Acting Speaker, earlier this year, we released...
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister, we have a point of order.
With great respect to the good minister, he is reading a statement to the House, and it would be more appropriate to allow question time for questions, and he could present his speech later on for us to debate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Governor, your point of order is in order. Honourable Minister, I can see that you have a written reply statement on the Honourable Member's question. We can allow for you to give that on a statement after the question time if you can seek leave of Parliament on that, so that we can have much time enough for the members to ask questions during the question time.
Okay. Mr. Acting Speaker, thank you. I think these are very relevant questions and they require relevant answers. It's not just an issue that we will talk about it on the top. It's very important.
Honourable Minister, I would ask you to seek a leave now so that I can grant you a leave, that after the question time today, you can present your statement to the House in reply to the question.
Mr. Speaker, I accept that. Thank you.
If granted, Honourable Member, Minister, after the question time, I will allow time for you to run it. Yeah. I grant him the leave on the chair, so the leave is granted for the Honourable Minister. Question time. Honourable Member for Raikos.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Mitok, thank you, Lord.
Honourable Member, after you, the chair will recognize the member for Mendi. I've been here on the chair and see him standing the whole week. So after the Honourable Member for Raikos, I will recognize the member for Mendi. Member for Raikos.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Lo, you look so well, Mama. Nal pikini Mary lo Papua New Guinea. Na Mitok, thank you too. Lo, you look so well, people lo Raikos. I have a question today, which I intend to ask the Minister for Planning, but since he's not here, I'll direct a question to the Prime Minister. And Mr. Speaker, sorry, Acting Speaker, as you may be aware, today is World Water Day. So I want to raise a series of questions, but I'll just talk a bit about the background to my question. Mr. Acting Speaker, as you may be aware, Papua New Guinea has a National Water, Sanitation and Hygiene Policy 2015 to 2030. And that policy actually highlights some very, very critical figures that 89% of people in urban areas do not have, only have access to clean water, and 33% in rural areas. And for sanitation in urban areas, that's only 57%, of the people have access to proper sanitation, and in rural areas, that's 13%. Mr. Acting Speaker, 13% of our people in rural areas have access to basic sanitation. And as you may be aware, in our PNG Development Strategic Plan 2010 to 2030, we have a national target that the government has set over a decade ago, that by 2030, 70% of our people, both urban and rural, should have access to clean, safe water and sanitation. Mr. Acting Speaker, we have only 7 years left. So I want to raise a very specific issue about the production of water, bringing the water to the house for families to access. Mr. Acting Speaker, Taiwan pla couple la Papua New Guinea, em karim pikini Mary. This la work blo karim wara, it becomes a slave work for that girl. As she grows up from a primary school up to when she becomes a woman, get married, become a grandmother, it's an everyday task, and they do it every day, in the morning, in the evening. And one plus slave work, lol Mary lo Papua New Guinea. So, in 2018, government NEC had made a decision to establish the National Water, Sanitation and Hygiene Authority. And I kind of agree with such an institutionalization of this issue of water, because time mi plagat one pla organization am directly responsible wash, we can accelerate our actions towards this la national goal blo yumina. This la organization can look save lo miplo district na helping mipla lo providing clean safe water na sanitation lo people blo yumi. So, Mino sabe how progress blo disla em come and be Prime Minister and by talking disla house na disla country, especially the women and girls. How far has the government progressed in implementing that NEC decision to establish a wash authority that will actually look at these issues? On the other note, there are actually opportunities. You know, in
Honorable member, I will interrupt you. I know the importance of the question you want to raise. We have a grievance debate tomorrow. If you would like to debate more on that, you can be allowed to. This is question time. We have limited time, so I will ask you to go straight to your question. Okay. And let the Prime Minister respond.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. One question me asking Pinis Narapla in this year's 2023 budget, how much money have we allocated for WASH? Number 3, what is the progress now on our national goal? Like how much progress have we made towards that 70% accessibility to clean, safe water and sanitation? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Prime Minister.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Me like thank you, Vice Minister, and member of the Right Coast, ask him this important question in respect to water and in terms of how water can you connect him along all house now families right across the country get some benefit along improved lifestyle. This is an important question. I know we are running through possibly midlife of the current WASH plan that targets by the time we arrive in 2030, 70% of our country, our citizens, our households would have access to clean and health and safe water accessibility. Just to answer one question quickly, this year we have 7 million kina allocated in this year's budget. I want to appreciate European Union, Australian DFAT, and all our other development partners. We have a program up to almost over 600 million kina worth of contract. DFAT, European Union, ADB, World Bank are all involved in this 600 million kina worth of program for us to maintain costs to possibly reach 70% of our people in our country have access to clean water in a safe and hygienic environment. So the target of reaching 70% remains by 2030. At 2023, from indications, we are anywhere between 20 to 40%, depending on which part of the country we are at. But the national average runs from 20 to 40% delivery thus far. I want to give assurance to the honourable leader who asked this question that our government is conscious about the need for our people in their rights to have access to clean water. This is a commitment of our government. That's why this year we have 7 million kina parked as indication of our support to fund this program going forward. In the question in relation to when will the bill come in, the bill that is proposed to embrace WASH is in its final stage, will be very soon completed, and in the not too distant future, this Parliament will have the opportunity to look and have passed the bill in relation to WASH. On the issue of an extra organization, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we are a little bit careful. We already have District Development Authority, we already have provincial governments, and our national water PNG and our national programs. Every new organization created in our country has a cost of recurrent maintenance apart from the development programs they'll be managing. We are conscious on creation of new authorities, but in the absence of that authority that might happen into the future, districts and provinces have funding allocations that is coming to you and under disbursements guidelines. And the procurement process. Districts and provinces can be running on localized programs for localized needs pertaining to the issue of water and health and sanitation of our people. And so I would like to encourage all districts and provinces that embrace the WASH policy that my government embraces in totality, that it is our people's right to have access to clean water in where they are living. So at the districts, when funding is coming to you, or provinces where you have your provincial budget to run, treat the need for water in as far as your people is concerned as a key need at the national level. We have not deviated from the focus of delivering to our country 70% of clean, reliable water by 2030. That focus remains. We are ramping up in our own national policy and national focus. I encourage at the present all districts and provinces to be mindful about this important need and get going. Our partnership with the development partners will remain, and into the future I will get the Minister for Planning to deliver a statement in relation to the water, health and sanitation issue for our people. Today is World Waters Day. Please use water wisely, and as members, let's try to work in this program to give our people reliable and clean water. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Mendi.
Speaker, I wish to ask this question without notice to the Minister for Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology. It's in regard to UOG. Minister, you are aware that the University of Goroka is the third largest of the 7 universities in Papua New Guinea and is by far the largest teacher education institution in our country. I'm happy that an institution which was primarily established for the purpose of teacher training has over time developed into a university. What saddens me and therefore prompts me to ask this question without notice is that the end product is measured by quality of performance by students in our high schools, secondary schools, in our junior high schools in our country. Thus, my question is the University of Goroka producing the same quality of trained teachers for the future of our children? Or in the name of continuous upgrade, and review conducted over time, we have gradually departed from the main focus of training quality teachers. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, can the Minister confirm or deny that the University of Goroka has deviated from the main teacher training and therefore compromised on the quality of teacher output? And if so, can the Minister put in place a review with the view to assess whether proper teacher training is conducted and the beneficiary, the students, performs well in our schools? Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Minister.
These questions are critical and also very strategic insofar as not just the University of Goroka, but it is universal to all our universities, our technical institutions, and the colleges, whether it be a teaching college or a nursing or any other. The question is a question that can be seen in respect to all of those institutions in the country, but in particular UOG. I'll respond to that. The questions probably refer to three areas: the quality, the relevance of students coming out of the lower echelon of school system up to the higher education institutions, and what is the government doing in particular with UOG as to if UOG has diversified the programs away from teaching. Mr. Assistant Speaker, in terms of quality, I have not done a specific study to assess the quality, but generally I have assessed the output and the performance, looked at the programs of the universities, and UOG has been no exception. I will look at it, and I'm looking at some of the programs of the University of Goroka at a very present time as I answer these questions to the Honourable Member for Mendi. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the quality in this country from my general observations, from the report I get, is that we have probably can say allowed our quality of education, especially the higher education, skill development, academic knowledge to drop to a level that we now realize we must improve. Quality is very important, and it starts in the following areas. First, Mr. Assistant Speaker, is the governance and leadership on the campus of the University of Goroka, but for other institutions. I have to some extent realized that the composition of governance at the Vice Chancellor's or at the, especially at the council level, and then to the management at the Vice Chancellor down to the other structured management systems, I think there's been a lot of compromise where I find the best people have not been appointed to leadership and governance to play those roles at those institutions. UOG is being addressed in that perspective. I have confidence in the council, confidence in the Vice Chancellor and the team working there, but we'll work together with them to address the leadership and governance issues to address the areas of quality, and that's being addressed. I've decided that under the Higher Education's General Provisions Act, when it places the authority of appointment on the minister, Mr. Assistant Speaker, I'd like to inform through you, the Parliament and the people, that I will change that in the Act to not to put the authority of appointing the council and administration on the minister, but will be done by collective body. And the collective body I am looking at is the Education Technical Council to make the decision and recommend to the Cabinet. So we will free up politicization of those positions at the council level, or even through the council on the administration level, at the vices level, we'll put at the collective decision-making body, and that will work with the National Executive Council to observe those, and that's where quality will start. When you put leadership and governance, the right composition,
then you'll find they will be the right people to drive quality down the echelon of the whole institution, especially programs. That's number one. Number two, how we are addressing quality. In terms of registering every university in Papua New Guinea or other institutions that come under the higher education institution space must meet a national registration standard so that they meet all the requirements to be called a university or a higher education institution. That is being looked at, and I'm doing it to making sure that UOG and other universities, they must qualify to be universities because they meet that standard of registration. That means every lecturer who teaches must be qualified to an accreditation. That means those professors must earn the name professor because they're doing research and work. Those that are in the dean in those particular activities or areas or the schools or faculties, they also must earn by the standards that we will implement. So registration is very important because when those people who are qualified to that level and they impart the knowledge to teachers to go and train students or teach students at the schools, then you will find the quality that the member is referring to will be achieved because you have quality registered institutions. The third is the accreditation of the programs being taught there. University of Goroka is teaching programs, and MP is correct, not only in education and teacher training, but also in other diversified areas. And the programs that are being taught there must be accredited to a standard, not just to their standard, to the university standard, that they think it is a standard, but to the national qualification standard. And that national qualification standard is coordinated and driven by the Department of Higher Education, Research and Science and Technology, but that standard is benchmarked against some of the best practices in the world. So you have University of Goroka correlating and working in partnership with a network of institutions and affiliated accreditation standards in the world. So we have the best programs that are designed to teach our staff or the teachers who will teach the students on the ground. So accreditation of programs is very important. That's how we're addressing it. The other area that I'd like to also mention is research in those institutions. UOG must do research. There cannot be a university without doing research. We're driving that. And the final area in terms of quality is the digitalization of some programs. Online learning or virtual learning. We would like to expand the number of students that pass out of the University of Goroka with quality education or quality teaching skills. So what do you do? There's some programs that can be put online so that if they cannot enter the UOG because the space is challenging, there's not enough space to have students accommodated or classrooms not enough to lecture, or there's not enough space there, then you have the people learning from outside of the campus. So those are the areas we're addressing in terms of the quality programs that must be taught, Mr. Assistant Speaker. And we have started a review. External auditors also on standby at the direction of the education sector or the department to go in and do the independent review of the programs on the University of Goroka. The other question is to have they deviated from teaching to other areas? Well, let me inform through you, Assistant Speaker, that my view is a university is a university. University is a university means they have a broader area of programs or a spectrum of programs they can administer. If they've deviated from teaching, I don't see that as a problem. But under the current circumstances, I'm informed that every year we need 800 students, 800 teachers to teach students. 800 teachers must come out of our universities or colleges to teach students. UOG only can graduate up to 600, sometimes 400 in a year. And I think TVWAN Wood's open campus in Eastern Britain is doing some 100 to 200 there, trying to meet the 800 mark, but still we fall short of teachers. So the point that the honourable members raised, Mr. Assistant Speaker, is a very valid point, that why should we try to diversify if we are not meeting the target of 800 teachers to come out of UOG in a year? And that has been a question that I've raised with the Vice Chancellor's Committee. I've established a Vice Chancellor's Committee that chairs Unitec to address the issue, to also assist UOG, so that in that way we can look at how do we rationalize the programs. What programs are they teaching that is not very relevant, but is taught in other universities, like environment is taught at UOG, humanities is taught at UOG, and also political science. Then I'm talking to you, UPNG. Well, if those programs are taught at UPNG, why can't we concentrate on at UPNG and not at UOG? UOG goes into expanding more on the teaching or training of teachers. So these programs that are put in place so that all the universities are cohesive, they're working together. The same with the technical institutions and colleges. So we see everyone is working together to complement or supplement one another to achieve the quality programs that I'm talking about, Mr. Assistant Speaker. So we're addressing those issues vehemently, and we are very keen to see improvement in the next 3 years to 5 years in this time of Parliament. I have strong conviction that we will have improved the quality, also increase the staff and teachers that will go out to the teachers and to the college, to the schools to teach them, and we'll find relevance in the programs that we are administering through those institutions. And finally, as before done, Mr. Assistant Speaker, I was asked a similar question about the Polytech by the member for Guminity other day. After the question time, I will seek the Parliament to answer that question as well. Thank you.
What is your supplementary, member for North Wagi?
I heard that Goroka University was set up for teachers training only. When we talk about quality, we must have a proper training of teachers to train our students so that we can produce the best brain in our country. And now I heard that Goroka is introducing general courses, like courses that are introduced in Unitec and University of Papua New Guinea. So I really want the minister to do away with all these general courses and specialize only on teaching in Goroka University so that we can have the best teachers to teach our students in our country. When you talk about quality, we must have quality teachers college. Not only Goroka University, but other teachers college too. We must have quality teachers college. And then we are going to produce quality students in our country. And they're going to come and look after us in the future. Now we are playing up with the country, playing up with the education. And I really want to ask the Minister for Higher Education to can you do away with the general courses in Goroka UOG and you specialize on teachers training only? Can you do that?
Okay. Honorable Minister.
I think I've been in the course of answering the question, I did say that there is a team that I have formed called the University Vice Chancellor's Committee, and I've charged them to look at the courses taught in UOG as well as in other universities to see how we can rationalize. That means that if we must tell UOG to cut down or abolish the other programs run and focus on teachers training only, we will do that. There are strong reasons to do that, and I've already given the assurance that we will do that, and by the next 3 to 5 years' time, you'll see UOG trimmed, right-sized, corrected, and quality institution giving quality teachers to Papua New Guinea. Yes, I agree, but I'll do it through, strategically, properly, through the committee that I've established. Thank you.
Member for Day.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Look, people today. Now, me taking this time, law. I'm only making me come now, me no open mouse la parliament. All thing also me out past man, but me like learning lo you experience now senior statesman lo parliament. Also me observing now me feel also me like Rousing some win. Now first of all, thank you Prime Minister. You good man, me all get making you look sorry you must stop me too. Now thank you all the party leader. Now thank you all the governor of the country. Me thank you also me got some powerful governors. Now me all get all members now. All leaders layer me look say all input you blow country. Thank you lo party leader blow me honorable Peter O'Neill. You want to good man to building plant infrastructure. He got good plan or no good, but no time blow me make him.
Honorable member, I will allow you to ask your question.
Okay.
Which minister you want to ask?
Question blow me. Thank you, Assistant Speaker. My question, without notice, to the Minister for Civil Aviation and Prime Minister to take note. And this is in regards to National Airport Corporation. It is a very, very important entity. And in the recent past, there was a lot of politics in terms of fighting for the managing director's position. And I understand after Joseph Kintau, there was another MD, and then after that MD, Rex Tipungi was the MD, and he performed exceptionally well, but he didn't meet some of the criteria. Did not work with the minister, so the minister brought in some legislations, and the minister rightfully took control of the organization, I assume. Okay, my question to the Minister for Civil Aviation and Transport and the Prime Minister to take note is that the question specifically relates to the critical issue of safety and security and compliance. And I make reference to a recent Post-Korea article dated Friday 10th. Absent National Airport Corporation MD acting position illegally extended. The article reported that the National Airport Corporation Board had met on the 3rd March 2023 and extended or illegally extended the acting managing director's term for another 3 months. And I believe it was without the consultation of the NEC, contrary to the Civil Aviation Act, which I think, passed in December. I have 4 questions for the Minister. Does the board actions make the acting MD's appointment illegal and therefore create a legal vacuum in the MD position? If so, does this violate aviation security and security by the airport operator, the National Airport Corporation, not to mention violate our international aviation treaty and obligations? Number 2, can the Minister inform this House whether or not the acting managing director's term has been lawfully extended by NEC for a further 3 months period, as required by law under the Civil Aviation Act? Number 3, if so, can the Minister inform this House if the acting managing director has qualified and met the mandatory prerequisites listed under Section 147AF, subsection 4 of the Civil Aviation Act, which the acting MD must satisfy before appointed for a 3 months period, one of which is the fit and proper person certification by CASA, amongst others. Number 4, can the Civil Aviation Minister inform this House when will the substantive position for Managing Director of National Airport Corporation be formally advertised so that a suitable candidate can be finally appointed to the position to help
restore public confidence and stability at the National Airport Corporation, because it oversees a lot of multi-million kind of projects in terms of airport developments and related infrastructure. Thank you.
Minister Civil Aviation.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Acting Speaker, I want to thank the Honourable Member for the series of questions in relation to NAC. And I will do my utmost best to answer those questions. But if you wish to have specific information, please forward a written request through to my office, and I'm happy to respond to it here on the floor of Parliament. In relation to NAC, the questions in relation to the board. As you know, we, the government, Marape Rosa government, have made the amendments to CASA Act in December last year in relation to giving the minister the initial authority to respond to adverse situations like we experience in NAC, where you have an acting MD or an MD not following the rules and requirements that is provided by CASA and the Constitution along NAC itself. So we had some issues in relation to that. That gave rise to the amendment to the CASA Act, which allows the minister to intervene and correct whatever that needs to be corrected with the MD. Now, in relation to that particular amendment and the processes, okay, at the first instance, the minister, under the Act and the amendment, is enabled to install an acting MD for NAC, and this is New Sky Limited as well, comes under the same arrangement. If there's an extension required, it has to go to NEC. That's correct. We're in the process now to have that facilitated through NEC. Okay? So I haven't made a decision yet, or NEC hasn't made a decision yet on the extension. Now, in relation to the NAC board making a decision on an extension, I want to make it very clear here. The board only has a power to recommend to the minister. It's a recommendation. It's up to minister and NEC to make that final determination. Really no different to any other statutory body who makes, or the board makes that recommendation, right? And for the minister responsible to take it up with NEC to make that final determination. So we're in that process right now going through. Okay, so I would like to reassure the member that we're acting on it. We're trying to finalize it. The recommendation from the NAC board has been given to the minister. I have looked on the recommendation itself, and I have done my own review on what needs to be done in the best interest of NAC, and I'm moving in that space, and in due course you will be made aware of what the final decision will be. So at this stage and at this point in time, the current acting MD, Mr. Joseph Tupri, will continue until NAC makes that final determination. So right now, there's a process that I need to adhere to. I have to go through PSC, all right, to get the final endorsement, and then from there, I go to NEC for the final tokorai. So, me play stop this stage right now. So, in relation to the NAC board having the authority along walk-in extension, not entirely. It's only a recommendation to the minister, to the shareholder, and then I'll facilitate from there on in terms of what will be in the best interest of NAC going forward. In relation to the acting or the current acting MD, Mr. Joseph Tupuri, meeting all the requirements, yes, he has met all requirements, okay? He's a fit and proper person, okay? There's no argument in that side, all right? And that has been recognized or endorsed by CASA themselves, independently from my input or any intervention from my part. Okay, so this aside, and no question mark long end. Unfortunately, it's really sad that we've got a lot of politics within NAC, and we're seeing all this negativity and the challenges with senior management, with the minister. It's happening before the public space, which is aminostred, rabis patient. So hopefully going forward, the minister can put his authority on the ground in terms of what needs to be done in the best interest of NAC and the traveling public, making sure safety and security is not compromised in any way. So I'm thinking, stop all Sam. In relation to a permanent position of MD, we're going through the position, the process again, all right? At this stage, it looks like we have to continue with an extension of acting, all right, with specific instructions, all right, for the acting minister, acting MD to carry out, right, before a final determination is made. Now, part of the process is the acting extension will have to take place because we need to advertise. Part of the process for advertising, there need to be first a vacancy on a position of MD. So Mibla need to move past them, terminate him, the former MD, Mr. Rex Kipongi. Once we terminate him, it is then a vacancy created. Once the vacancy is created, then we can advertise and then ask for expression of interest, and then you miscale him to this point in time, usat and best man to this walk. Miblalo, Marape Rosso government, we want the best person for the job. We got no time for politics. We got no time for continued interjection, interference, like government policy, blah, blah, blah. We have our clear mandate, a clear focus, delivering and make sure that we deliver safety and security at the highest level for our traveling public. And that is not going to be compromised by any MD going in there trying to take control. Na larim interest belong in yet, continue lo. Walk him now. Miblalo government, we can't do much. So all that Mibla straightening finish now. So now Mibla moving forward in that space. And unfortunately, we're not tracking as fast as I would like, but it's the process that we need to follow. So there's no shortcuts, no yaman. Na Mibla behind him good process. Now time we come up lo decision making.
Honorable Minister, our time has lapsed.
By giving final talk, the final talk, right. So, yes, Acting Speaker, sorry. The boss, the member would like to ask me any series of questions in writing. I'll be happy to respond to them specifically if you wish to. But I hope that some along all backing blow me tete, you help him and helping you all get that locally click alongside NAC and the situation. Thank you, Acting Speaker.
Thank you. Honourable members, our question time has lapsed. Honourable House, I will allow the Communication Minister to give some information of his ministry. Answers to the questions.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. Thank you, True Long. Give me this opportunity again. And I want to also again thank the Honourable Member for Kokopo for those series of questions. Very important and very good questions that needs good answers to these important and good questions because this is what our people want to know and want to hear. So firstly, on question number 1, clarify the intent and purpose of the media development policy. The intent of the draft National Media Development Policy is to establish an enabling framework to recognize and develop the media sector in Papua New Guinea to support our development agenda. Current research and recent consultations have led us to the consolidation of 4 main issues within the media sector. First is the concerns on quality of journalism. By concerns, we observe the decline of quality investigative journalism, the impact of substandard reporting on the development agenda, and the concerns on conduct, ethics, and accountability of journalists. Second is the protection of journalists. My ministry, through the Department of ICT, is currently collating both quantitative and qualitative data to verify the concerns on safety of journalists. We recognize that at the moment there is a lack of protection mechanisms for journalists. Third is the coordination of government information. My ministry has, for the last 3 years, been looking at options on how to reorganize state-owned media outlets so that we coordinate dissemination of government information better. We also recognize that as government, we are lacking coordination in government information, and we need to coordinate. Fourth is the exclusion of SMEs. The ministry has identified that SMEs, particularly in the modern media space, are not recognized as professional and not given appropriate support. So based on these issues, Mr. Assistant Speaker, the draft National Media Development Policy identifies 4 main objectives. Number 1, facilitate and coordinate access to information for citizens and ensuring the media provides accurate, impartial, and balanced reporting on issues of public interest, including those affecting marginalized or underrepresented groups. Number 2, encourage media diversity and support the representation of local and regional voices in media content and ownership. Third, ensure media organizations adhere to ethical and professional standards and promoting responsible journalism that respects local customs and cultures. And fourth, promote civic engagement and participation in media issues, including through partnerships between media organizations, civil society groups, and government agencies. So by promoting access to information, media diversity, and responsible journalism, the policy aims to support the development of a more informed, engaged, and empowered citizenry in Papua New Guinea. So that's the first question, and I answer this in detail because it is important. The second question, how will the new policy help protect and promote media freedom and enhance freedom of speech? On the question of how this policy will promote media freedom, early this year, we released draft version 1, followed by a version 2 of the National Media Development Policy. In both versions of the draft policy, we proposed for the re-establishment of the PNG Media Council as an independent arm to represent and maintain standards within the media professionals or professions. The ministry maintains the view that the PNG Media Council, through its self-governing model, is not doing enough to grow the profession and hold journalists accountable. Through the ministry's proposal, the PNG Media Council would be empowered, hold mainstream media outlets accountable, and establish protection mechanism for journalists as well. I want to inform honorable members of this House that we have had a consultation workshop, and as a result, my department is working on identifying a model where we can find common grounds with all stakeholders. Number 3 question, does the new policy seek to regulate social media space, that's Meta or Facebook, WhatsApp, etc.? I want to remind all that this policy is not about regulating, but more on building capacity and recognition on within the media profession. The department is reviewing whether to include provisions for oversight on social media platforms, and we will inform in version 3 of the draft policy. On question 4, current status of the policy, Mr. Assistant Speaker and members of this Honorable House, as a matter of update, my department will be publishing a consultation report this week. Following this, the consultation itself is leading us to undertake a series of nationwide survey to better define our media landscape and ascertain data necessary to consolidate issues highlighted in the recent consultation workshop. My department is expected to be releasing a version 4 of the draft policy towards the end of April. This version 4 will be subject to further feedback, and I expect to take to Cabinet as early as May, and should legislation be proposed, we would also start drafting process in May. And I want to urge all members of Parliament that this is a very important review, just like all the other reviews been undertaken by this government under the leadership of our Prime Minister, Honorable James Marape, and the Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable John Rosso. So we are reaching 50 years of independence in this country. No one has ever touched the media space in trying to put something important in place. And we are doing it, this government is doing it. And I want to thank all of you for the support. Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. Thank you.
Honorable Minister for Higher Education.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. May I seek leave of Parliament or leave of the Chair to respond very briefly to a question asked by the Honourable Member for Gumini on the Gumini of Chimbu Polytech. Thank you.
Honorable House, is leave granted? Minister, you can go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, the time is of essence. I will not take much time, but I have this detailed response that I've written in letter, answering every detail of the Chimbu Polytech established in Gumi district to the Honourable Member Reddy. I gave the letter to him yesterday with all the details in it. And I like to say it because he asked publicly on the floor, so I'm responding to that. And the project is good. It is run between, or operated between the Department of Education and Education. The funds, some funds were put in the Education Department, while some funds were parked in the Higher Education Department. That's about 23 million in education, and my colleague Minister of Education will address that with the member. There's a 20 million in the Education Department that is still there. About 600,000 of that was spent on technical expenditure. 19 million is still there. And the contracts awarded to one major contract by the Cabinet, and there are 6 or 7 others by the District Procurement Commission at the authority of the National Procurement Commission, and they were awarded to 6 of them. The details I gave to the Honourable Member, and the work has not progressed yet because of elections, and it was put on hold. Now I have instructed the department to work with the education department to administer and implement the program. And I'd like to ask the member to work with us to implement it. The total money allocated by the Marabe government was 43 million. And of that, only 600,000 was spent from the money allocated in Department of Higher Education. But of the 23 million in the National Education Department, the information I also have is that money is in the trust account and the money will be expended. But I urge the honourable member to, on behalf of the people of Chimbu, and can communicate with my colleague Minister in Education. So the project is on foot. I've instructed them to implement the program. We'll work with his district and his district procurement commission to administer. And I've given the details letters to him, and everything is in there, and I urge him to work with me. Thank you very much, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Honorable members, I suspend the parliament and we for lunch and we resume at 2 p.m. this afternoon.